Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Global warming has been controversial, but the fact of climate change and the reality of the loss of biodiversity is never disputed. And as a matter of fact, the loss of biodiversity is a huge damage to the humanity and to the world. And there are reasons that you should be concerned about the biodiversity loss. Amazingly, we are concerned about the diversity in the workplace, diversity in the country, but we refuse to understand the need of diversity in nature and life. Biodiversity is a variety of life and is fundamental to our human existence. However, the planet is facing a loss, and this is something shocking. We have got to realize that we are not the sole occupants of this planet, but the choices and the demands of human species seems to be threatening all other species. Our everyday choice has an immense impact on biodiversity. When we use natural resources or invade and exploit the forests, there are large chemical, physical, and biological consequences for our ecosystem. A direct consequence of human action is the loss of biodiversity. The vast variety of the species, whether plants, animals, birds, fish, insects, microscopic organisms, are vital to maintain the delicate balance. And we have seen, for example, ordinary things like we don't see the butterflies the way we used to see them in our childhood. Since when have you seen a glowworm in the night? And some of the people may not even have ever seen in their lifetime at all, the youngsters especially. And there are a number of issues threatening the biodiversity from climate change, which is a fact, to overexploitation of natural resources. Cultivating and conserving diversity is no luxury. It is survival, which is imperative. Some environmental gains were made during the lockdown due to COVID-19 pandemic because it restricted your activities. But those are slipping away. So you have got to take policy decisions. As a matter of fact, we have got to focus on interconnectivity of environment, forests, agriculture, and people's health. For example, simple. Planting too much of wheat and rice is depleting the water resources and reducing the water level. Now, biodiversity is a variety of life and fundamental to survival of humans. That we don't have to forget. It affects lots of us and it affects the whole of nature. By allowing the species to go extinct unnaturally, our forests to disappear, upsets the balance of ecosystem. And we have seen more and more vulnerable species disappearing, forest lands being converted into cities. And this is happening at unprecedented rate. The consequences are ecological, economic, and loss of biodiversity. Now, why should you be worried? That's the point. You might say, well, if the monarch flies are not there, butterflies are not there, so what? If you don't see the vultures, so what? First thing, Loss of biodiversity results in frequent pandemics. Don't forget that. The more the loss of biodiversity, the more the pandemics. What happens is when you invade forests and habitats of the various species of animals and insects, you result in an increase of human animal interaction. And that escalates the probability of virus jumping from animals to the human beings. These diseases, they are zoonotic diseases. And the more you exploit biodiversity, more the possibility of pandemics like COVID-19 to occur. In the last 50 years, because of the loss of biodiversity, 300 new pathogens have impacted humanity. 300 in 50 years. That means six pathogens every year. In the past, for example, in India, let's take up India, the destruction of Western Ghats led to a monkey disease. In Middle East, we saw MERS, respiratory syndrome. We saw Ebola in Africa. These all happened because of invasion by the humans into forest and destroying the environment. And even coronavirus is a result of invasion into the forest ecosystem. That's what the scientists say. Secondly, if there's a proper balance, if there's biodiversity, it defends you from natural calamities, not only pandemics. It reduces the impact of the natural disasters, climate change, growing population, increasing human invasion of the natural habitats. The results, calamities like the forest fires. Look what is happening in British Columbia and in California every year. Floods, droughts, they have become so common. The most important was June 23, 2013 Uttarakhand floods, which were determined to be caused by the human beings. So it's not only pandemics, but even the natural calamities result from your action in destroying biodiversity. Third, it affects your food system. You must be amazed why. Loss of biodiversity is leading to the food cycle changes. And it is happening both at the global level and at the local level. Biodiversity plays a huge role in nutrition for human beings. It directly impacts the production of grains, vegetables, fruits, herbs, and other food items. It's important for the productivity of soil and impacts other food resources like livestock and marine species. Biodiversity that results in the loss of critical pollinators like bees, worms, and other species, especially responsible for soil quality, impact the food production and disrupts the supply chain. That's why vermiculture is more preferable than all the fertilizers. That's in fact an attempt to rebuild or reconstruct biodiversity balance. Have you seen that our vegetables used to be rich in iron and other nutrients, and they are not so, they have disappeared? People now rely more on warehouse stored unseasonal vegetables, and that's not healthy. The disappearance of the bees and the butterflies should be a matter of concern. It has a major impact on the plant reproduction, and that further affects the local and the global food system. Huge amount of pesticide strain over crops in a major reason for disappearance of bees. But that's not enough. The fourth reason you should be concerned is that if biodiversity is depleted in the river ecosystem, it will cause lack of fresh water. We already are suffering from acute shortage of fresh water. And this is likely to increase, as we used to say. The Third World War, whatever the reason may be, but the basic reason would be the water, dumping of untreated sewage, chemical waste, industrial pollutants, disrupting the natural flow of water bodies, building of dams, pollutes the water. I once saw the Humber River dirty here in Canada. Ganga, Yamuna, Gomti, Godavari, the Damodar in India, badly polluted. Now look at it. On one side, Humber is dirty, but Credit River so clean. This is because of the human activities. And the result is no clean water has been left in the freshwater systems. And not only the fresh water being depleted, it is harming the river biodiversity. Have you seen that in our rivers we used to have crocodiles, distinguished by the long, thin snouts? But the building of dams, water transportation, recreational activities, pollution from the industrial activities, rise plastic particles like fishing nets, they all have simply made these crocodiles disappear. We used to be a normal feature in all the rivers. Similarly, dolphins, they are the indicators of the river health. But do you ever see them? This time we saw them near inland in some rivers because of the lockdown. So that shows that if the human activity is restrained, there can be a reversal of this trend of the loss of biodiversity. And the fifth reason why you should be concerned about the human activity which disrupts biodiversity, that it curtails ecosystem services. Biodiversity is crucial for the functioning of the ecosystem. And that is essential for survival because that provides oxygen, fresh water, food, makes the climate moderate, mitigates natural disasters like storms, drought, floods. Every species in the ecosystem fulfills their role for maintaining the balance in the ecosystem. I'll give you an example. I referred to you earlier. In India, we used to see vultures like anything. But in the last 20 years, 90%, 90, of the vulture population has simply disappeared. Now, these vultures are basically the garbage men, the cleaning birds. They clean up the environments. And why they have disappeared? Because of the use of the pesticides and chemical ridden carcasses of animals. They feed on those animals which are been fed pesticides, get poisoned, and they die. Now, if this whole species disappears, it will increase the amount of dead bodies, carcasses, carrion, and decaying flesh of the dead animals and the humans will spread various diseases. So, the most important part of the cleaning system, natural cleaning system, we are throwing in the garbage. There is something called background rate of extinction of a species. It's a part of nature. Evolution will always make some species disappear. would also ensure new species coming. I've been putting on my post the new mushrooms, the new bird, the new fish, the new animals. That's a part of the process. And as a part of the evolution process, some animals disappear. But the human activity that results in the loss of biodiversity is dangerous. And human driven biodiversity loss is 50 times higher than the background rate. So, normally, if it is one species losing, in the human activity, we lose 50 species. This is unnatural, this is horrendous. And the biodiversity also helps in the evolution of new species. Deforestation, urbanization are the biggest causes for the biodiversity loss. We have to conserve biological diversity. We have to ensure sustainable use of components and fair and equitable share of benefits arising out of biological resources. We have to implement nicely laid down act that a number of avoidable problems can be avoided. Unfortunately, we are not doing that. And how hypocritical we are, how dishonest we are. Can you believe? We talk of diversity, as I said, in the countries where racism, and we are destroying the diversity of nature, the mother nature. The biggest capital is not money, not food. The biggest capital of the whole world is the nature, and we are destroying that. I have a interesting comment by Singh Jaspal. I'd like to read it for you. The best display of glowworms I recall I used to see in Dehradun just before sunset during 50s. It could be comparable to the city lights coming on after sunset in Calcutta as a flight takes off from the local airport. One needs to have a window seat. Both scenes are exhilarating. Glowworms have just appeared now, as brought up by you. So that's what I said. I remember in my childhood, my brother, my sister, we used to run after the glowworms. We'll catch them and put them in the glass beakers just to see them twinkling and then release them, not kill them. We used to run after butterflies. Where's that gone? It's not only taken away the beauty, it has destroyed our system. Glowworms are extremely important. These fireflies attract negative parasites in the nighttime so that they can be attacked. When the rodent comes out, the other animal will attack it, the vulture will attack it and take it away. So these balancing activities have been destroyed. Thank you, Mr. Singh. So we have got to ensure that the biodiversity laws and the five reasons I've given, which should make you think that we as human beings are in fact acting in a very criminal manner, and the sooner we stop it. And as a matter of fact, even the government's responsibility is there. They should lay down strict laws against urbanization. It should be back to nature, for therein lies the salvation of humanity. Thank you.